Do you like monsters, gore, and behind the scenes look at your favorite horror films? Then be sure to check out Fangoria, one of the premier brands in horror. Fangoria has been delivering quality magazines since 1979. Each collectible issue features exclusive articles about your favorite monsters as well as up-and-coming terrors. Be sure to check out the Fangoria store website for subscriptions and a bunch of cool merch. And while you're there, use promo code Would You Die Show for 20% off your entire order. That's right, 20% off your entire order. Applies to subscription and one-time orders, applies to the first subscription order only. Now, it's time to talk Dawn of the Dead.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Have you ever felt a knife cut through human flesh and scrape the bone beneath?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Be my victim.
You are all my children now.
Hello, my name is Austin Torres, and welcome to the Would You Die podcast, the show where we talk about our favorite horror monsters and villains. Today, I am joined by a rising horror filmmaker extraordinaire. She acts, she writes, she produces, she's been a zombie, she's done it all. It is my friend, Deanna Hope. How are you today?
Hi, I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the kind words.
Of course. And thank you for picking one hell of a picture. Well, actually, I should say, actually, no, I'm not because I don't remember the quote. I was going to say the one quote where it was like, when
It's
hell,
it's when there's no more
no more
room
room in
for
hell,
hell, the dead
the
will
dead
walk
will walk
among
the
us.
earth. Or walk among us. Damn it. Damn it.
It's okay.
Got it wrong.
It's fresh in my brain. So I mean, and that line's iconic. So
It's Dawn of the Dead, if you guys didn't already know.
the
It's
original.
the original, but I'm sure we'll talk about the Zack Snyder remake a bit. I'm sure that one will come up. I gotta tell you, I'm so happy you picked Dawn of the Dead because it's a film that I've been wanting to revisit for a very long time. The other two of the Romero's Dead trilogy, Night of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead,
Mm.
those films I've seen more. I can never find Dawn of the Dead for some reason.
Which that's funny because the one I've seen the most is definitely Dawn of the Dead. We kind of have a nice balance going on.
Exactly, because I have only seen it 1.5 times.
What- Yes, 1.5 times. And that you said the first time you watched it was when you were young, right?
I'd say high school age,
Hmm.
because that's around the time I also saw Day of the Dead was high school. It's funny because Night of the Living Dead was the one I saw last.
Oh, really? That's the one I saw first. That was one of my first zombie films. I mean, I've seen pretty practically every zombie film that you could think of, even like the C list, D list,
Mhm.
the ones you just find randomly at like the library or something.
Yeah,
Or at Blockbuster, like I've seen all of them. And yeah, Night of the Living Dead was definitely my first.
not me.
Day of the Dead, yeah, I haven't seen that one in a long time. That's probably the one that's most like fuzziest in my memory.
I vividly remember watching it with a couple of my high school friends who I still talk to this day. And I like Day of the Dead for me is one of those movies, even though I haven't really seen it in a long time, I feel like I remember it so vividly.
Mm. There is, from someone who's seen pretty much every zombie movie out there, there's a lot of Day of the Deads.
Well, there's a lot of Dawn of the Deads and a lot of Night of the Living Deads, and then there's Return of the Living Dead, and there's Army of the Dead, and there's
There's
Land of the
Flight of the
Dead.
Dead.
Yeah, Diary of the Dead.
Diary of the Dead, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was produced by George A. Romero. I
I
think he had
think so. He might have directed it, but I don't know for sure. I've never seen it.
It's fun. It's one of those found footage.
I think I heard that because that I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm
And then,
like, why would I oh yeah that I haven't seen it?
and then there's Land of the Dead. That one's really good.
I have seen that one. I like that one.
That one, fun fact, I'm sure you might be aware of this, but you know the opening scenes when they're showing how the zombies are being used as like carnival games?
Yeah,
So there's one that they zoom in on and they focus on, and that is actually Nick Frost in zombie form making a cameo.
that's cool.
Yeah, Nick Frost and Simon Pegg.
That's really cool. Because I think you could make the case that Shaun of the Dead helped to bring back zombies.
hmm
And
Shaun of the
then,
Dead is up there with one of my favorites, and I actually noticed in Dawn of the Dead that
mhm.
there's almost like shot for shot, there's a kill that's exactly the same in Shaun of the Dead. So I'm thinking it's, an homage to Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, you know that how meticulous Edgar Wright is. That was definitely on purpose.
Yeah, do you remember the kill where I forget the character's name, but he gets pulled out of the window and his stomach gets ripped open?
Yeah.
It's that one of the bikers in
One of the
Dawn.
bikers. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's iconic. And
That
I
I don't know why. Yeah, I might be considered like nasty, but I love a good like stomach, like intestines getting ripped out shot. Like,
well, I think what makes it nasty, like, because in the case of Dawn of the Dead, I'm pretty sure Tom Savini used like guts from like a
ooh,
butcher's shop.
I mean, that's genius.
It's hardcore. And I'm sure under those hot lights, it did not smell good.
Ooh, no, it probably smell like, because they end up removing all the bodies, like Peter and Flyboy end
Yeah.
up, as they're making them all their home, they end up removing all the bodies because they're like, oh, it's gonna start reeking in here. And it probably actually did reek because
Yep.
of intestines. So
I'm gonna protect us from the zombie apocalypse a little bit, and before we get back into the Dawn of the Dead conversation, I want to, cause I want to talk about you for a little bit so the listeners get to know Deanna.
yeah.
You are, like me, a fellow horror filmmaker.
Mhm.
When did you kind of start getting into the genre?
So it was extremely early for me.
Hmm.
So of course, so before I got into horror films, which I would say was around 6 years old.
Nice.
But even before that, my favorite movie of all time that I like would make my mom go to Blockbuster every weekend and rent the same movie over and over again was Ghostbusters.
Nice.
Which isn't horror, but still I feel like it's like baby's first horror film.
Yeah, it's spooky.
Yeah, it like dabbles. It's like a taste into it. And I
Yeah.
also loved Scooby-Doo. I was obsessed with Scooby-Doo. When I was like, so I have a brother who's 7 years older than me.
Hmm.
So when I was like 5 and 6, around that age, he started to babysit me because he was what, 12, 13? And he would, like, I would be in the living room with him while he was watching a horror film because he loves horror films. And he would like be watching the film and I would have like my Barbies and like my dollhouse and everything. And whenever he would like look over at me, I would pretend to be playing with the Barbies. But then when he would look back at the screen, I would start watching the movie with him. So I was like
That's
intrigued
awesome.
from the get-go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I
You,
remember one of the first
yeah.
ones that he watched that definitely terrified me was Chucky, was Child's Play. Because at the time, Chucky was like as tall as I was. So like
Oh, yeah.
it was definitely terrifying and shocking to watch because as I'm playing with dolls, thinking like they're like, oh, like, fun dolls, I'm watching this murderous doll go on a rampage.
I do think Child's Play has one of the best scares in any horror film.
Which one is that?
Oh, it's the reveal that he doesn't have batteries. And then like his head turns around. Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Yeah.
That moment, 10 out of 10 horror moment. It is like Bed Gardner's head in Jaws.
hmm
It gets me every time, and I imagine it gets the audience every time too. Just like
Yeah.
one of those scares.
especially being a kid, because the kid in the film is being terrorized by its own doll. So then I started questioning all my dolls. I was like I would
Yeah.
interrogate my dolls. I'd be like, "Are you coming? Are you gonna come to life?"
And I think it's just such a well-constructed scare from a filmmaking standpoint, because, or at least a storytelling standpoint. Now, you and me, we've consumed so much horror films and TV shows and just media to where it's pretty hard to scare us now, you know?
It is. There's not too many horror films that'll get to me. For me in Child's Play, it was the elevator. Like when he heard the elevator coming up as they're running,
Oh,
and you know that Chucky's on the elevator on his way up to them. That is terrifying.
yeah.
Because it's the
Well,
old school elevator too, right? So it's the like,
yeah.
we really know when it's coming.
And that's what I love about scares like that, because like, I mean, you and me, we watch, and a lot of you listening, we watch a lot of horror stuff. So it's like we could see when we can feel when a scare is coming a lot. And like I'll still jump. It's not hard to make me jump, but I like scares that like it doesn't just get that physical reaction out of me, but it like kind of freaks me out a bit. I'm thinking about it a little
Mhm.
bit after.
Yeah, like when you go
Sometimes there's
home, you're like turning on all your lights and like checking like the corners and like making
that, or
sure we're all.
like I like that moment. Like, so think about Child's Play, right? What makes that one scare so great for me? Not just because, he turns his head around and it's scary, but it's like she thinks everything's okay because she's testing. And then like and then she notices the batteries were never in. So it's like that quiet oh shit
Hmm.
before the big scare.
Hmm. But
So I
still,
mentioned,
because it is
yeah,
adult and she is an adult, it's still this moment of like, I still don't know. This is spooky.
right.
It's still a doll. Like,
And then I think later in that scene where it's like she's like, or I'll throw you in the fire. It's like, I'll teach you to mess with me, you stupid, blah 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 blah. And
mhm.
it's so good. You mentioned how you saw Night of the Living Dead first. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said it was your first zombie movie?
That I can recall. Like I said, I started pretty
Yeah.
young, but that's like the first one I remember.
Mine was actually my first zombie movie was actually Zombieland.
Oh, that's an incredible one. That's probably one of my top. I love Zombieland.
I really enjoyed that movie as well, but like it's funny because Zombieland is one of those movies that loves zombie movies.
Mhm.
So I didn't really appreciate a lot of the jokes or a lot of I mean, it's still funny not knowing anything, but if I rewatch it now, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of homages in here.
I actually had this little notebook when I was a kid, and I
Mhm.
wrote down all the rules. I numbered them and I wrote them down so I could remember the rules.
You're gonna be prepared.
I was like, I'm ready. As long as I follow all these rules, I'll be fine. One of my favorite things about Zombieland is the opening credits.
Rocking to some Metallica and the slow motion
Metallica, yeah, the
gore.
slow motion attacks are so incredible. It really
Uh,
sets the mood, I feel like.
and you know what other movie has one hell of an opening is Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead.
I honestly, remind me again what the intro was like, the opening.
It's Sarah Polley, I think that's the actress's name. I believe it's her.
Oh, the cold opening.
The cold opening, yeah, where
Hmm.
it's like the zombie child gets into their bedroom and then attacks him, and then she has to run, and then it's like this whole neighborhood, and it's just so many different elements, and then it's like it's so engaging, and then goes into like the title sequence, and you're like, whoa, what? The movie hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, I love the scene when she gets out of the house and the camera's behind her and it like shows just the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Like it
uh
follows, you see zombies like run across and the camera like follows the zombies.
it it is one heck of a way to start any movie.
I've always thought like I'm like, okay, when I have kids in the future and they like open my door in the middle of the night because they're scared or something, that scene will forever be in my head. Like
And this is why I won't have kids. No, I'm kidding.
no,
Maybe I can't
maybe
tell the future.
I might just get up and hunt my kid.
You got to do what you got to do.
Every man for himself.
Exactly. And you know, if they're not a zombie, I'll be like, sorry, I'll get you some ice cream and therapy in the future.
Yes. And then I'll show them that scene and be like, you understand.
You understand. But I mean, we were talking about Insidious earlier when Darth Maul is like controlling the kid during the seance scene. I'm like, nope, nope. You and I have talked about this, not on during this recording, but just in general. I love The Omen.
Hmm. Pet Cemetery is another one.
Yep, yep, yep. I
Just
mean,
so many reasons.
I would much rather have a Rottweiler than a kid.
Yeah, they protect you. I mean, Cujo,
Hmm.
but
But even then, he's a good boy who was put in a bad situation.
yeah,
Poor Cujo.
I know. Cujo's just misunderstood.
I love Cujo so much.
Cujo was also one of my first horror films.
So good. For
Didn't make me scared of dogs.
no, not me either. It got me scared of being trapped in a car with a child.
There's so many reasons to be terrified of children.
Hmm. Although I don't want to like talk all about Cujo because that could be an episode for a later time. We gotta talk about Dawn of the Dead. I just gotta say the kid who plays Tad in Cujo,
Mhm.
so good.
He is. He's really great.
So good.
Yeah, it's
But
been a while. That's
yeah,
another one I need to rewatch. It's been a while.
I love that movie so much. But there's so many different great zombie movies. Why was Dawn of the Dead like the one when we were kind of deciding what movie you wanted to pick?
So Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead. Those are like like we had talked about. Those are the three classics.
Yeah.
And Dawn of the Dead is definitely my favorite out of the three. And there's so many good modern ones that I could think of, like modern as in, the 2000s
Yeah.
that I could think of, but just I wanted to go back to the zombie origins, let's say. And so Dawn of the Dead
For
to me
sure.
was just the obvious answer.
I like that. I like that a lot because like I do think Dawn of the Dead is the most iconic of
Hmm.
the three. I think
Yeah,
it's the
I've
one
heard a
that
lot
kind
of
of
people. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I think it's the one that like cemented itself into pop culture.
Mm, very much so. Very much so. Like honestly, the zombies are there and they're a tool used, but just the amount of pop culture. I mean, a lot of people argue that it is could be considered like the perfect horror film in a way as well. But just
Mhm.
also the commentary is unbelievable. Like it's very heavy throughout the
Yeah.
whole film. Just like those zombies almost take a step back in a way. And the commentary really just is the forefront, in my opinion.
And it's interesting that you say that because I feel like that a lot of horror films in the 70s had these very strong commentaries.
Hmm. Which I love and I very much appreciate. That is what I plan on doing with my horror films as well. So I feel like when there's a deeper meaning to it, there's just it really you can use the horror, like I said, as like a tool to really talk about it.
Exactly. And I think what a lot of the films in the 70s do very well is they're about stuff, yet they operate as simple stories as well.
Hmm.
For an example, to go with Dawn of the Dead, I think Jaws is I mean, yes, it's sharks eating people. Three men have to go out to sea and kill the shark. Like it's very simple in that way, but it's also Jaws is a very anti-capitalist movie.
Hmm.
Very much how Dawn of the Dead is a very capitalist movie.
Yeah.
They're both critical of authority, I think is a nice way to put it.
Hmm.
I think Alien falls in this as well as being like a anti-capitalist, very critical of authority, yet you can watch it with the lens of space monster.
Yeah, not everyone looks that deep into it.
Right. And Dawn of the Dead works as zombies in a mall.
I feel like just in case the viewer, there's this one part near the end
Hmm.
where it's funny because they all go on this like it's almost like a montage of just like a shopping spree. Like,
Yeah.
the three main characters that are left at this point, spoiler alert. They got rid of all the zombies. They're isolated. They don't have much purpose. They've been in there a while. They're, well protected. And so they go back to what they know and they, they make a home, they like paint it, and then they go shopping and they're all like enthralled with like all these nice clothes that they can have and they all grab watches and like she does her makeup
Yeah.
and they go on this like shopping spree. But then at the end of that scene, they all walk out of the store. They just make a comment. They're just like they're looking at the zombies that are on the other side of the doors, and they're just like, "Oh, why are they coming here? Why do they keep showing up?" And Peter, who is played by Ken, I don't want to say the name wrong, Ken Forhey.
Ken Foray.
Ken Forhey, it just goes, it's because it's what they know. Like they don't know, like they want to come here because this is what they know, and this is, what's familiar to them is like shopping. And so it's
Yeah.
just right, pretty much they're telling you in that moment that this is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, because it's very explicit in its themes, I think. Say what you want about Dawn of the Dead. It's not the most subtle movie.
No, it isn't at all. It's in your face pretty much the whole time.
There are
Uh,
subtleties to it because George A. Romero is a master,
oh, of course.
but you're not missing that. No one's missing that message unless like you're wearing a blindfold.
Yeah, and even the in the beginning when the protests are happening
Hmm.
and the raid with the cops happen where they go and they use it's that's commentary on how they just start killing everyone
Yeah.
in the film, like even if they're innocent, that's the opening scene. One of the opening scenes right there is like saying a lot. So
And that is, we're talking about how the remake has this insane way to open a movie. That raid scene in the original Dawn of the Dead's really violent.
yeah, they even the one cop that goes kind of rogue,
Hmm.
it just starts killing everyone. His fellow cops then kill him.
Yeah,
They shoot him just like in the moment, just everyone's shooting each other. And then there's like the one guy that gets his head just completely blown off. Like they just open the door and just completely blow this guy's head off. Like it's a
it's
wild ride,
insane.
which I appreciate. I really appreciate a film, especially a horror film that just gets right into it. Like they don't waste any time.
Yeah, they really don't.
Just like, Zack Snyder then was like, all
Mhm.
right, well, George A. Romero didn't want to waste any time. I'm not going to waste any time either. So,
Yeah. And Zack Snyder's like, I'm not going to waste any time. I also have a much bigger toy box than George A. Romero had. I'm going to use it.
and he had George A. Romero as well. So
Right.
Zack Snyder had everything. Like,
And people love that remake, and they should. It's great.
out of all the zombie films I've seen,
Mhm.
it's definitely probably like top, let's say top five. Like
Who do you
it
make a
is,
top five zombie film list on the
ooh,
spot?
on the spot.
We don't talk a lot about zombies on this show. I feel like on my show we talk mostly about slasher villains and like monsters.
Yes, but you know me, I could also go on about slasher villains any day.
Oh, you are well versed in all horror, my friend.
Yes. On the spot. Okay, let's see. Well, Dawn of the Dead, the original.
That's number one.
I would say I'll make top five, but not in order.
Okay. Okay, top five, no particular or I would say that that might be your number one just because you said it first?
Mm,
You didn't hesitate?
yeah, we could definitely, yeah. I would say if we're putting them in order, that would be top. It's just too iconic. I don't
Yeah, for
think
sure.
it's like, of course, Jaws will forever be my favorite shark movie, you know?
I gotta say, I feel like there are way more good zombie movies than there are good shark movies. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a topic for a different day, but I agree with that.
exactly.
I would say Dawn of the Dead, the original, not in order. Dawn of
Yeah,
the Dead, the remake.
nice.
I wouldn't even call that a remake. I would honestly call it a reimagining
Sure.
because yeah, I feel like there are similarities, but it's also so different and it's very it could be, it's a standalone as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that it's a remake that justifies its own existence.
Yeah, and it like yeah, justifies its own existence, goes with the time frame that it's in.
Yes. I think of like David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly in the same way where it's like it is a remake, but it is such its own thing.
Yeah, which to me that's a true remake. Like
Yes.
do your own thing with it, don't necessarily do shot for shot.
Right. Right. Or like John Carpenter's The Thing. People
Mm,
don't realize it's a remake of The Thing from Another World.
I love the thing. That's oh my gosh. I could go on about that as well. So
I could too.
both Dawn of the Deads. I got
Oh yeah.
a Shaun of the Dead. I love Shaun of the Dead so much. That was well one of my first zombie films. And to me, like it's just so easy to go comedy
Right.
with zombies.
It is.
I would say I like Land of the Dead a lot. I think they did well with
Okay.
that. Land of the Dead. Mm, that's tough.
It is tough,
It's tough.
especially because I know you've seen more zombie movies than me.
Yeah. Because it's in the forefront of my mind right now. I just gotta say Zombieland because I love Zombieland.
That's fair. That's
Like
fair.
again, two comedies in there, but they're so well done.
So, Dawn of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Zombieland.
Yeah.
And those are your zombie rankings for today, because you could always change it up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if I sat down and really like was like, okay, with cinematically, story wise, I would
Yeah.
probably potentially switch that up a bit, but just what on the spot.
Yeah, on the spot's always hard. And because I made you do that, I feel obligated to do it myself.
Okay, yeah, I want to know yours.
I don't want to leave you hanging, so I'm going to say I'll do them in order as well. As of today, my favorite zombie movies, number 1 is the original Night of the Living Dead.
Classic.
I love that movie. Number 2, I got to go with Zombieland. I'm going to think cuz like oh, I know my number 3. My number 3 would be 28 Days Later.
Mm. Are you excited for the new one?
I am. I think that's going to be fun. Number 4, I'll say Train to Busan.
So I haven't seen it.
It's so good. It's so good. Number
Well, I'm
5.
always looking for a new zombie film to watch, like one that I haven't seen, so I gotta
I,
watch that one.
I'm a little surprised you haven't seen Train to Busan, to be perfectly honest.
I know it's on my list, but
It's a it's a it's a good one. I think you'll really like that one. So what I say so far, Night of the Living Dead, Zombieland, 28 Days Later,
Train to
Train to
Busan.
Busan. It's that last one that's always hard because there's a bunch. I think I'm gonna go with my gut and go with Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. There you go.
I almost said Warm Bodies because Warm Bodies is so good.
I also have not seen Warm Bodies.
Ah, I that movie's so good.
Like I know
Um,
about it, but I guess I was and I need to see it.
it's
But
so cute.
yeah, it's definitely a different direction as compared to most zombie films.
Sure. I was thinking Shaun of the Dead. I was thinking about both of the Dawn of the Deads because those are great movies too. But I'm like, I just gotta go with my gut and
And they're
say, Was that?
There's a few newer ones that I could have mentioned, but I feel like they're so new and I've only seen them like each once. And I know they're good, but it's not up on the top five. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't put it up there.
Right, right. I get that for sure. So, but yeah, there's something fun about zombies, zombie movies.
I was so
But
into
yeah,
zombie films when I was younger growing up. Like they were like top favorites. Like now it's slashers. I know that's very much my style of slashers, but I actually trained my dog to be quiet and be able to hide.
that's iconic.
I was like, because my dog's coming with me when the apocalypse happens. So
Right. When the apocalypse happens, I'm just going to accept my fate.
it
So,
depends on kind of zombies. Like if we're going like Dawn of the Dead, like OG Dawn of the Dead, like ridiculously slow,
right.
then I'm trying. I'm gonna go until they kill me. Like I feel like I could survive that. But if it's like DayZ zombies, where it's like sprinting and can climb
Hmm.
walls, I'm nope. I'm done. I'm just like I can't handle that.
Yeah, I'm done no matter what.
Or it's World War Z. World War
Well,
Z.
oh yeah. I've seen World War Z.
Yeah, those zombies, no, I can't handle that. I don't have the agility or the stamina to handle that.
Right. That's a movie. Yeah, so on to good zombie movie. No, I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding. I don't want to be a dick.
I get it. The book is really good.
I heard the book is good.
It's really good, but it's very different from the movie.
I remember the scene where Brad Pitt is like preparing to like take out zombies or something. He's preparing to do something. It's near the end of the movie. Or maybe he's preparing to like test out the cure or something like that. And in the middle of his like preparation montage, he like kicks open a vending machine, a Pepsi, and in slow motion, he takes this huge swig of a Pepsi. And that's when I truly noticed product placement for the first time.
Oh, really?
Like product placement has been around for a long time, and I knew it was a thing, but that was the first time where I was like, "Oh, they're trying to get me to drink Pepsi right now."
It was really in your face. Yeah. That's funny.
And then I remember there was like this one zombie who he was doing like a Chatterer type thing, like Chatterer from Hellraiser with like
Mhm.
he
Yeah.
was doing that and I laughed really hard in the theater. I couldn't take it seriously. I just could not connect to that movie for whatever reason.
I can
Um,
understand that. Like it's not for everyone. That just when you said the chatter, it reminded me of one of the many versions of Day of the Dead I've seen.
mhm,
Which some of them are just so off the wall. Like one of them,
yeah.
I remember pretty much the only thing I remember about this film is there was one scene where a zombie was driving a car and the other one and there was another zombie hanging out of the sunroof. It was
I
just I
love
don't
that.
know if that's just scene that just stuck in my head.
I love the original Day of the Dead,
Mm,
and I think mostly because of the one zombie. I believe his name's Bubba,
yeah.
because at the end when he like does the salute, I'm
Mm.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the zombies are killing the mean general and they're ripping him apart. And he's like, choke on them, choke on them. And he's telling the zombies to choke on his guts. He's like, choke on them. I'm like, that's cinema.
Mean to the very end. Even bullies the zombies.
Hmm. I will never forget that. I remember the first time I saw that scene because I was like, what? I think Day of the Dead was actually the first classic zombie movie I've seen.
Okay. Yeah, I need to rewatch that one because just been so long and I've seen like I told you I've just seen so many versions of Day of the Dead that it's all
Yeah.
jumbled in my brain.
But the original, that one holds a special place in my heart.
That I watched for the first time on like a Halloween night, like all the lights were off and the jack-o'-lanterns were
Yeah.
lit and it always like that's what I want to watch like on Halloween.
I believe the first time I saw Night of the Living Dead, it was either on Halloween or it was around Halloween.
Mm,
I remember the first time I watched it. I don't remember the exact day I
mm,
watched it, but I do remember the first time I watched it. I was in college. It was my sophomore year of college. I had never seen it, and it was around Halloween time, if not Halloween. I'm like, I need to watch Night of the Living Dead. I've never seen it. And I watched it on my laptop with my headphones. It made an impression on me clearly because I remember how I watched it.
mm.
And since it's really easy to find, I've seen it plenty of times since a couple of Halloweens ago. It was my family did a double feature of Night of the Living Dead and Trick or Treat for Halloween.
Trick or Treat is definitely a Halloween movie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because we wanted like a classic horror film and then we wanted like something actually Halloween themed.
hmm Yeah, zombies don't. That's to me, that's a year-round type of horror film. But yeah, it's Night of the Living Dead. I'm like, oh, that's Halloween.
Yeah, it's just something about it that lends itself to Halloween.
hmm
Because it's funny, because like the actual Halloween franchise is Halloween, but I could watch Mikey My My all year round.
Yeah, I know. That's fun. Now that you say that, that's actually really funny because it's literally called Halloween. But yeah, I definitely don't think like when I think Halloween and Michael Myers, I don't think like, oh, like it's October. Like,
Yet when you watch them, they're very October movies.
yeah, but
Yeah,
they at the same time, just for some reason,
but
just not.
you could watch them whenever.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about like a Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Like they're perfect to watch in October, but I you could put on a Freddy movie right now.
I could watch it year round, but definitely the first one is like, yeah, that's an October movie for me.
Yeah. So it's like, so I agree with you. Like zombies are year round. Zombies are whenever you want. But Night of the Living Dead, it's just right to watch in October.
When you said zombies are year round, in my head, I was just like, oh, a zombie Christmas movie, but I don't think that exists. But that would be cool.
It does. Damn it. It
What?
does, and I didn't mention it.
Zombie Christmas movie? I
So,
need to see this.
Scottish zombie independent Christmas musical.
What? That's a lot of wild words in one go.
It's called Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh, that sounds
It's
familiar.
It's my sixth favorite zombie movie. I knew there was an obvious one I was forgetting. I knew I was going to be mad at myself. And I love Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead's still a good fifth pick, but I really wish I said Anna and the Apocalypse.
Well, yeah, you can switch it out if you want to. It's not too late.
I can't I can't. This is I have podcaster integrity.
Mm,
I said what I said. I'm not going to betray the listeners like that. Maybe tomorrow's rankings, I'll update them, but as of today and the day of whenever the listeners are listening.
yeah. What did you think of Army of the Dead?
You know what? I was just talking about this with someone earlier. I like it. It's kind of like Zombieland 2, where I saw it in theaters. I really
Mm,
enjoyed it. I thought it was a great time, and I never had the urge to watch it again.
okay.
Whoever I was talking to about it, I was I specifically said, I remember like, oh, hell yeah, Zombie Tiger. And I'm like, do I actually like the movie or do I just like the Zombie Tiger?
See, I liked going into it. I watched it for the first time. I believe it was on Netflix or it was on one of the streaming sites. And just zombie heist movie is what got me. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. This is different. Let's see this. Like, let's see what they did. Like, I was just like, that got me, like, I was immediately interested.
Well, something I do remember about the movie, which I really liked, was one Bautista. I'm a big Dave Bautista fan, but
Of course.
his daughter in the movie is played by Ella Purnell,
Mhm.
who is huge right now because she's the main character of Fallout.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew Fallout had a star-studded cast, but I haven't seen it.
She is the main character. And when I first saw like the trailer for it, I'm like, why do I know her? Where do I know her from? And it took me a little bit, but eventually I was like, oh my God, She's Dave Bautista's daughter in the film Army of the Dead, the
Mm.
movie with the zombie tiger.
The zombie tiger, I love that.
Yeah, I love the zombie tiger so much.
It's a fun addition. I think I'm
It,
just a sucker for Zack Snyder. There was elements of it that I didn't necessarily agree with, but I thought it was fun.
you know what I'm a sucker for?
Mm.
2 words, 4 syllables.
Zombie.
Zombie tiger.
Yeah, Zack Snyder did it. So
The rest of the movie, I could care less. Like, if I didn't agree with something, it don't matter because zombie tiger.
yeah.
But
I'm just like zombie heist. That's all I care about.
and I remember there were a lot of gory deaths. Like
There
Zack
was.
Snyder went hard on the violence in this one.
And you're like,
But
oh, like spoiler alert for anyone listening, but you're just like, oh, maybe a lot of them are gonna get out of this. But then all of a sudden it's just like everyone is getting knocked out in crazy ways, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, no one is getting out of this.
right. Right. I gotta rewatch Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. I gotta rewatch because it's been a second since I've seen the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead. And I feel like he went hard on that one too.
So it's been a couple years since I saw that one, but I at the time, like when I first discovered it, which I was so young when I first discovered that film,
Mhm.
between then and now, I've probably seen the remake of Dawn of the Dead probably at least 10 times. So I'm pretty familiar with it. I do want to rewatch it like in the next couple days, but no, he went ham with that one. I mean, just spoiler alert again for anyone, but just the scene with the pregnant character,
Mm.
that was wild to do
Yep.
that. Like that was like zombie baby. Like
And it was like yeah, that was a departure from the original.
that was a massive. I mean, we did have the pregnancy in the original, but they did not go zombie baby with it.
But imagine
No.
if they did
I wonder what
in the
George.
70s.
Oh no.
I mean, that was pretty risque for the 2000s, and that was a decade of like hostile.
Yeah. That was a decade of gnarly and like
Yes.
gnarly. Like people were just pushing the boundaries.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, for sure. So I gotta ask, because you're a filmmaker, how do you think Dawn of the Dead has influenced you as a filmmaker?
As a filmmaker, well, of course, like I'll start with that. It's always been a dream of mine, starting with that film, that I want to make a zombie film.
Mhm.
It's very much a goal of mine, but it's also, as we were talking about with like the commentary, it was one of the first films to show me that horror, it's a very deep genre. Like there's so many layers, so much commentary, so many horrors to the world, like, in this world, that it really has inspired me with my scripts that I've written and ones that I'm currently working on, to really think about it and really put that depth into it. Because I feel like as a horror creator, the more real it is, the more real the topic is mixed in with like, dramatization of like zombies or, whatever it ends up being. That's what really makes it a great
Yeah.
script and something for people to remember.
Yeah, I love that answer. And because that was such I think a really good, a really profound answer. I gotta ask you something super shallow. What's your favorite kill from Dawn of the Dead?
My favorite kill. So actually, I want to answer this with two different things, because
Sure.
one of my favorite things about zombie films is watching what some of the zombies do, just like randomly. Like, because I feel like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
there's always the wacky zombies that do something just really funny. And two of my favorite zombies was when the ones that were going up the escalators and they
Mhm.
would just fall. And I'm just like, to me, I'm just like, I want to know what that day was like on set because I've been a zombie extra. And so I know that like of course when you're playing a zombie, you can't be looking down at like your feet. Like you have to be acting like, a dead person.
Right.
So I'm like, they must have really fallen. Like if you put these people on an escalator and you told them like, hey, act like a zombie, I feel like these people were actually falling. Because I know
Yeah.
when I was a zombie, I had to run into a cornfield. And there was a few takes where not only me, but a few of the other zombies would just face plant. And it happened to me
Yep.
once. And so that was one of my favorite zombies. And then another one just like head first into a fountain.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, if I was like on set, I would have wanted to be that zombie.
I love it.
My favorite kill was definitely the ripping of the stomach. The one,
Oh
uh,
yeah, yeah.
it wasn't Tom, but one of the biker guys, unnamed biker guys, when they were shooting him, because Peter was running around shooting him, and he was doing a
Mhm.
really good job. He was nailing all of them. Like he killed all of them. He like knocked him off a bike because he was riding around on the back of a motorcycle, and then he got shot off the bike, and then the zombies first ripped the shirt so you just see the exposed like stomach, and then they just start digging in and then pulling it out. And that is just so gnarly. Like when I make a zombie movie in the future, I will definitely have a stomach kill.
Yeah, I mean, if Edgar Wright can do it, why can't you?
Yes, and Edward Gear White is also such an inspiration for me as a zombie, like not only someone who wants to create a zombie film, but just a horror film in general.
Yeah.
'Cause he's just so incredible. But
Oh, I'm a fan of his. I think my favorite kill from Dawn of the Dead. It's funny because the last time I watched Dawn of the Dead was last week.
yeah.
So listeners, for context, Deanna and I aren't that far from each other. So you, me, and John, we watched Dawn of the Dead last week. I don't remember. Time is an enigma, but we watched it relatively close to this date of recording. And there was like a problem with the internet, so we couldn't stream the last half.
Mhm.
And I was like, it's 11 o'clock at night. I've been dozing off.
You had worked that day.
I had work that day, yeah. And I was dozing off during parts of the movie. So I was like, I should just go home and sleep. And and so I think I missed my favorite kill.
Which was?
And I remember it from the first time I've watched it all the way back in high school is when the zombie steps on like the crates or whatever when the helicopter's going through. And then
Hmm.
the helicopter blades just like get the one like just yeets his
Yeah.
forehead, and then the zombie just kind of crumples. And that stuck with me. Like that scene stuck with me for a long time because it was so like the right thing. Like
Yeah.
one, yeah, you kind of want to see it, but like it just felt like that would happen. Like it just feels right.
Yeah. If
Something,
you're gonna have
yeah,
a zombie film, like you should have a gnarly kill, like an off the wall
and it's that, but
zombie film.
like not to be super like full of myself or esoteric, but like something that I really like about Dawn of the Dead is to me it kind of has like this dream like quality. It's not overly realistic.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's tough to say because zombie movies in general, like what's the more realistic of them? Because we never know what's gonna happen. Like if zombies did come to life, how that would actually go.
But like I mean more in like the camera work and like the aesthetic of it. Cause like the Dawn of the Dead remake, yeah, sure, the zombies themselves might not be super realistic, and I don't know the science behind Zombie Baby, but but that's like a ground like it's a lot of like shaky cam and like
Yeah.
handheld camera work. So you feel like you're there. And a lot and like 28 days later is a very grounded like it's shot with DV. So it feels gritty. But like Dawn of the Dead, it's just something about it that like, and I think it has something to do with the fact that it was produced by Dario Argento.
Mm,
And
yeah.
Argento makes these like Suspiria freaks me out because it's very dreamlike. It's like
Hmm.
watching a nightmare. And Dawn of the Dead feels like that to me
Yeah. Yeah,
in a way
definitely.
that Night of the Living Dead doesn't.
Yeah, Night of the Living Dead has a very different tone. But yeah, with the camera work and yeah, I can with Dawn of the Dead definitely.
And like the makeup too, because like it was
Hmm.
while people were still figuring out what zombies were. So in Dawn of the Dead, they're like gray or blue or green depending on the shot. And then the blood is like Italian red.
Yes, it is just straight like paint, which I
Yeah.
love. It really adds, yeah, it adds that dreamlike element. I feel like also the way the mall is set up
Yeah.
very much makes it feel that way. And then I'm also thinking of there's one shot in particular. The way that they were cutting, they would cut around and like show a lot of the zombies also
Mhm.
felt that way. But there's one shot in particular when Flyboy, that's not his actual name in the film, but I like Peter would always call him Flyboy, and so I like
Mhm.
calling him Flyboy. Flyboy, it was time for Flyboy to die, and the elevator opened and you get his POV and the zombies literally just look like into the lens and like come at the camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I know exactly which shot you're talking about.
Hmm.
That shot's
Very
great.
like nightmare.
Yes. All that to say, I think the moment where the one zombie hops on those crates and then gets like half decapitated by the helicopter propellers, that just feels like something that happens in a dream.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
And
Something
I,
that also,
yeah,
no, finish your thought.
and like when Ken Foray has to defend himself against the zombie children.
Yeah. The way that's shot, and I definitely feel like those kids, one, had a blast.
Yeah, it looked
Like
like they were having fun.
I would have had so much fun with that if I was a kid. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely the way that was shot and almost something that else that makes this film feel very dreamlike is the silence.
Yeah.
Like there's no like in the like what I can think of with the scene with the children, there's not much like reaction sounds. Like it's a very silent, like something's happening and they're about to potentially get bit by these zombie kids, but they're not like vocalizing it that much. It's just mainly action.
Right.
And the
And like
ambiance is
and
very like real
yeah. And like
sense.
there's music in the film, but like the music doesn't help you to anticipate things like in Jaws, where John Williams like the
Hmm.
shark's around, the
Yeah, like
shark's nearby. I can think of the music from like when the zombies are retaking the mall,
mhm.
because that's like a you wouldn't think that music would go there, but it does.
Even with the music, it's the silence is so loud
Yeah.
in some of the moments. And the music
Yeah.
makes it more dreamlike.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, I really appreciate Dawn of the Dead for that. It is like watching a nightmare.
One of the other kills that I like, because it's such a slow burn,
Hmm.
is Roger.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
something I really like about Roger is throughout, because his kill takes a few days.
right, because he gets bit.
Because first they're working on the trucks and he almost gets bit, but then Peter saves him by shooting the zombie that's on top of him. So then he shoots the zombie and then blood gets all over him. And you could tell like in that moment, he like kind of loses a part of his humanity and he starts getting a little kooky.
Hmm.
And then like Peter's like, "Are you okay?" And he's just like, "I'm fine, man. I'm fine." And like he's calm, but you can still tell that he's losing it a bit. And
Yeah.
then he gets bit. And again, it's such a silent moment when he gets bit. Like it's terrifying and it's a sense of panic, but there's also that silence there of like, oh, like he kind of is still calm. Even when he gets bit, he's still holding it together. And then over days, you're seeing him get sicker and sicker, and he's getting pushed around in his little wagon.
Yeah.
And then like he's still appreciating the little moments. Like he is one of the ones that goes on the shopping spree as well, even though he's sick. But he stays calm and positive throughout the whole thing. And you just slowly see him like fully like lose himself into it. And then right before he's about to pass away, he says to Peter, he's like, I'm gonna try to not change. And
Right.
it's got this like it's such a different tone than like like the gory kill. It's more of this like really like human moment.
Yeah. And the actor who plays Roger, I don't know his name. He's really good
It
in this
is
movie.
it is Scott. I don't want to say the last name wrong, like Scott Rayner.
Okay.
Mhm.
He's really good.
Yeah, his character is great, and as opposed like the contrast from the new Dawn of the Dead,
Hmm.
when some of the characters get bit, they I feel like have a much more they lose it quicker.
Yeah.
Like the guy who has the wife with the baby, he just drops into an insanity and he's like, no, it's gonna be fine. Like he like really has a sense of panic where Roger kind of holds his composure the whole time.
I think that also has to do with kind of like the like how pacing is in like the those different eras of filmmaking. Because like
Mm,
in the 70s, films were a bit more, they were slower in the 70s. They were allowed to take their time a bit more. But by the time we get to the 2000s, which is post MTV, a lot of filmmakers have gotten their starts from like music videos. Like David Fincher might be the ultimate example of that. Michael Bay as well. Zack Snyder, I don't know where he got his start from, but he has such a high paced energy to his work. He has a very great sense of tempo, but you can tell he loves a fast tempo. Whereas George Romero is content to take his time. I think the way those kills happen in the two different versions are like they reflect the time periods in which those films came out.
yeah, and that's why they're both so amazing in their own sense.
Right. Exactly. This has been great. I love this. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to revisit Dawn of the Dead, a film I haven't really touched since in years. I do have to ask because it is the idea of the show. If you were trapped in a mall during the zombie apocalypse with a few of your homies, would you die?
If I was in, like I said, I don't think I would die if we're talking Dawn of the Dead
We're
levels.
talking Dawn of the Dead.
Okay, then no, I would not die.
Do you think you could make it through the entire film?
I do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, because even I feel like even when the bikers are introduced, they really aren't that hard of a problem to solve.
I'm glad you bring them up because we were talking about how dreamlike Dawn of the Dead is. I forgot there was a pie fight.
Yeah, what was that?
That's part of the dream.
Yeah, they're just like, where did they get the pies? Did they make them? Because it's pretty deep into the apocalypse at this point. They must have made them.
Look, I don't care if it's the apocalypse or what, there's always time for pie.
Yes, and that is probably the only zombie movie to this day where there's a pie fight.
The
So
only zombie movie so far.
wait until I come up with one.
Exactly. Zombie versus pie.
There you go. That's
Uh-uh.
the next one.
So I wouldn't make it.
What if you so you wouldn't join my team?
I would just hold you guys back.
Well, at least you accept your fate.
I'm
So
accepting my fate. I'm just gonna chill at home until whatever happens happens.
there you go. Just sit there and wait for them to come get you, or would you like take care of it? You know what I mean? Before they can get to you.
Well, I'm just gonna watch movies
So you would be down to get eaten alive eventually?
eventually.
Okay.
I might just like die of starvation.
If I was cornered, well, sorry, not to go into another tangent, but this is
You're
another
good.
thought. I'm like, what if you just hid under your bed? When is a zombie gonna find you?
What if I just lock my door
And just be quiet and just chill.
and just watch movies?
Yeah.
Because like a zombie don't have the key.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I would want to be in a zombie apocalypse if I were to die, if I was cornered, I would want to be in control of my death opposed to letting them bite me because that is a big irrational fear of mine. It
That's fair. Because being bit sucks.
seems like it would be painful.
But I would just chill at home. A zombie can't get in because my door's locked. And the zombie will just knock because that's how zombies do. They're like, hello, can we come in and eat your brains? And I'd be like, no, thank you. And then the zombie's like, okie dokie, bye-bye.
Yeah, they're very polite, I've heard.
Very polite. Zombies get a bad rap.
Again, they're misunderstood, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's a movie, The Polite Zombie.
Yeah, that could be, honestly, that could be an indie film.
We got this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been so much fun. Where can the people find you should you want to be found?
They can find me on the gram. Should I like list my socials or?
Yeah.
Okay, so they can find me. I post horror content on my Instagram, which is Deanna Hope Visuals. I have another one called Mirror of Deanna, and soon to be coming, which will be up momentarily, probably in the next week or two, my YouTube channel, which is Have Hope Productions.
I love it. So, listeners, check Deanna's work out. She is awesome. She's gonna have a couple films out, I believe. Already made a few short films. Her and we're collaborating on stuff. So
Yeah, and by the time this goes up, I will have a link to my YouTube with my horror movie track. So
yes, I love it. No,
thank
thank you
you for
so
having
much.
me. This has been so much fun.
Oh, I had a blast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Anytime.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Thank you, Deanna, for joining me and having this wonderful conversation about Dawn of the Dead. Guys, she's going to make it huge one day. I truly believe it. The Patreon is back. That's right. If you really want to support this podcast, you can help me directly by subscribing to the Patreon. I retool it so it's only $3 a month, and you'll get exclusive content, movie reviews, and more. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Would You Die YouTube channel. You can watch video versions of the podcast episodes, my short film Ice Cream, and there's more to come. If you like this show, please let me know. Leave a review and rate on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to this show. Also, feel free to interact with me on social media. That includes Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you're most comfortable. It may not seem like a lot, but trust me, every single like, share, comment, follow, it really helps this podcast to grow and to keep me going. And also feel free to let me know how I'm doing. What do you guys like about the show? Areas I can improve? Guests you'd like me to have on? Monsters you want me to talk about? Let me know what you guys think. A reminder, I just became an affiliate for FANGORIA, one of the premier brands in horror. I definitely recommend checking out their magazine and even subscribing. And if you decide to do that, don't forget to use the promo code WouldyouDieShow for 20% off your entire order. You can find the show's social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at WouldyouDieShow. Also, now you can follow me on TikTok at WouldyouDiePodcast. Would You Die is a partner with the Three Wise Men Media, a Metro Detroit-based group of awesome guys, Kyle, Tyler, and Dylan, where they bring you professional wrestling, indie comic books, and so much more. The music you hear in the beginning and end of each episode is composed by my friend Josie Palmer. Next week, we're talking one of the most famous slasher icons who somehow hasn't had an episode on this show yet. It's crazy, guys. Until next time, I'm Austin Torres. Try not to die.